Year 2 gave us servers and crazy Carnevil. Now, hear me out. I could just leave it at that. Right? I mean, nothing's really stopping me. That pretty accurately sums up year 2. But you came here for something more comprehensive, so this is your fault. Monsters and Mortals, or M&M for short, my favorite pastime. How long has it been? A year? I don't know, long enough for this old meta chart to be completely out of date. Last year I took a look at Dark Deception's multiplayer game and concluded it was a pretty good year, but not without its hiccups. It could have been better, but it also could have gone much more poorly. The worst thing we suffered was a sizable content drop for 5 months. But hey, at least the year concluded with some pretty banging updates. But that's old news, let's catch up. What has Glowstick Entertainment been up to for the past 365 days? That's a long time, so what did they do with it? How does it compare to year 1? All of that, and that happening now. When we last checked up on M&M's history, we left off with the Joy Joy Gang update. 3 new characters, but none of them were quite good enough to break into the meta. Actually, speaking of this chart, I gotta make an amendment to last year's summary. It was naive of me to think that Bierce left her post here. Heather didn't replace her, more so just provided a different playstyle since she's more defensive compared to Bierce's more offensive role. Seriously, she gives a new meaning to the term bitch slapping. So, my mistake on that. Back to Joy Joy Gang, as we know, Lucky never loses, and he made it his life goal to not only raid this chart, but be the most busted thing on it. The start of that journey kicked off just a few days later. We got another new patch that Friday, bringing us major visual changes to 4 select maps, EE, DD, and both SS's. Elementary Evil is now brighter, and I'm actually kind of turned off by this. I still think the absolute best school lighting we've had in Dark Deception is the pre-enhanced version, which was already in M&M before this. But it's just a matter of preference, I'm not seriously bothered by it. On the other hand though, Deadly Decadence has this really nice hint of blue that, while I don't think it fits that much, is a really cool change. Though this lighting does give a better look at Titan Watcher, and I don't know, he looks kind of weird, doesn't he? Stranger Sewers is pretty wonky. I'm not really a fan of the boss room being this bright, but I could appreciate the volumetric light shining down above in some areas. Lastly, I could easily get behind Silent Sacrifice. Not only is it faithful to the original games, but it just looks much creepier, especially with boss time when the other world takes over. All in all, I like these lighting tweaks. Yeah, I complained about like half the changes, but even if I'm not jumping for joy with the adjustments, the difference is very refreshing. They honestly breathed new life into these levels when the update dropped. On to balancing. This was the time the devs realized that fear didn't have to be an exclusive effect for the Silent Hill nurse, and had a bargain bin sale for 3 other monsters, these being Fiend, Reaper Nurse, and Lucky the Rabbit. Now I can give Fiend a pass, sure he was already in a really solid place, but this buff made sense, it even fits with his character from the source material. But Reaper Nurse is where I draw the line, I'm sorry. I mentioned last time that she was on the stronger side, which in English translates to borderline OP. Now she gives everyone fear. Fantastic! There's no debating it. I mean, vaccination time didn't need fear, it was already loaded with like 3 other effects. She's a speed monster as well, meaning she's among the fastest playable characters in the game with both her movement and attack speeds. Lucky got this treatment as well by now dealing fear, and I have no clue why. I know I sound way more upset about Reaper Nurse, trust me I do, but Lucky was now, without question, the objectively best character in the game. Fear didn't just push him over the edge, it flat out broke him. Both of these characters were in arguably decent places before this patch, but now they are near unstoppable forces to be reckoned with, and to top it off, they bugged Silent Hill Nurse and her ultimate doesn't even do anything anymore! Okay. Sorry, I just need to get that out of my system. Rant over, my apologies. Now, Lucky handing out fear, while not appreciated, wasn't exactly a surprise, as it was included in his ultimate description at launch. He was just bugged, but dear god, let's move on. Mama Bear and Sugar Teddy were slated to come alongside the next base game stage, Crazy Carnevil, and we got an announcement for the game's 1-year anniversary. Instead of featuring Super Horror Bro, who was sadly stepping away as Glowstick's video editor, this showcase, and ones after, would feature Omar Sabali. Sad to see Mike go, but Omar was a solid replacement who could definitely bring some nice new energy into the showcases. Fast forward to the premiere, let's unpack everything in that bad boy. We got a nice highlight reel of the game's first year if you didn't feel like watching the 45-minute version. Fan art, cosplay, dedicated servers, okay Vince! Yeah, remember this from last year? It is my dream for this game to have actual servers instead of peer-to-peer, but we need a more consistent player base for that. Oh well, maybe one day. I edited that part after watching the showcase, so that was kind of funny. But yes, long gone would be the days of double heavies, laggy connections, host privileges, player clones, and all the other unintended latency-based bugs, right? Right? New game modes on the way with no new info, a port to the Epic Games Store with cross-platform. I could see why they started with servers. Don't get me wrong, these are cool announcements on their own, I guess, but with nothing to show, it's a bit hard to get excited. Especially the latter one. I mean, an Epic Games port is the type of thing that just come out with not much anticipation behind it. Look me in the eye and tell me that you have actually waited day and day for an Epic Games port of a title. I rest my case. However, stuff did get juicier from there on out with Dark Song from the Coma 2 DLC and the Clown Spider getting model reveals, and they looked like absolute fire. I still can't get over the quality of these things. Another AAA DLC was in the works, Chapter 4 maps on the way, and oh shoot, more DLC reveals. Slow down, Vince, this is already quite the to-do list. I mean, what could they be? What the hell is Friday Night Funkin' doing here? Oh shoot, my bad, Corey! Akin to the UK creators, Corey X Kenshin got a reserved seat on the Mortals roster as an upcoming DLC character, and I was stoked. More YouTubers just made sense, and Corey was probably the next best contender, cause I mean, have you seen those view counts on his DD playthrough? Heck yeah, man, I could vibe with it. Excuse me? Yeah, Glowstick did the unthinkable a second time and got Poppy goddamn playtime. Keep in mind this was November 2021. PP Chapter 1 only came out like a month prior. What's up? You're focused on the fact I said PP, aren't you? Man, grow up. Similar to Silent Hill, don't even try asking me how Vince persuaded Mob Games on this one. The announcement didn't come without worry though. After all, Chapter 1 of Poppy didn't really offer much to base a whole DLC around. But like I said, Glowstick had quite the backlog of content they had to get through first. Surely they'd work on Poppy after we got more chapters, right? Right? Yeah, this is gonna be a trend this video. And that was all she wrote for the showcase. Probably the most hype moment of year 2. We literally just started. All the new model reveals from the showcase were posted online, in addition to more characters in the Coma set. Mina Park and Yeasol. Did I even say that right? I said last year that I never learned anything else about this game in the 1 year since this announcement was made, and that continues to ring true a year later. I have the games in my Steam library now, just haven't found the time to boot them up yet. At this rate, I'll be at the title screens by the time we talk about year 3. Back to Monsters and Morons, dedicated servers was still coming full force as Vince announced a beta was on the way. This is just year 1 again. Whatever, works for me. Better hitboxes and a new 6-player format were being teased. Shard Mayhem and Soul Collection would gain 2 new players, while Maze Escape evolved into 2v4 after previously being 1v3. I think now's as good a time as any to talk about the game's player count. It's no secret that the number of concurrent players is nothing stellar. While we have no idea what the daily count is behind the scenes, finding a match isn't always the easiest thing in the world, and I really doubt anyone's going to disagree with me on that. I don't even recall if I touched on this last year. I can't be bothered to check because, come on. Upping the number of players in the lobby to 6 didn't mean finding a match would get any easier in the long run, but GE could fix this by having a steady stream of content trickling out. Given all they had to do, they'd definitely be busy pumping out M&M content, right? I'm not sorry. Later that month though, the hype train was not slowing down. Make way for Simon Cromwell, a new programmer for Glowstick Entertainment who would be taking over exclusively for Monsters Immortals. Upon being hired, he himself announced that the beta was coming later that day, and he was right. The beta went live that evening, and on top of that, we even got the crazy Carnevil boss time track uploaded to YouTube. For an M&M fan, this was overload. A new programmer, a new soundtrack, a new beta. God damn, I miss those days. Simon was already pulling his weight, fixing the initial server issues as they cropped up, and he's literally the person who made servers even happen to begin with. What an absolute Chad. For the beta, friend play was removed and stats wouldn't track, which, alright, fair enough. However, upon release, Lucky snuck in and changed some of the code so that his ult would deal initial damage to everyone. Oh joy! This was fixed within a day, but then Lucky was immune to stuns. What the hell is your problem? Thankfully, as a silver lining, Silent Hill Nurse's ultimate was fixed, and now actually did something outside of Point's knife aggressively. It still didn't line up entirely with the ultimate description of 20%, since it only did half of that in actuality, but hey, at least she has an ult now. So, 6 players, how'd that go? Honestly, for Shard Mayhem, it's a blast in my opinion. Not only do stage bosses have a lower chance of harassing you now, but it's just a lot more chaotic than it was before. Silent Sacrifice was actually kinda bearable for once. At the end of the day, M&M is a party game over anything else, so the addition of more players for a match really helps sweeten the pot. Soul Collection is alright. Most mortals were still never really designed to fight, and the end of the match can just be unfair at times since there'll now be 4 monkeys out and about. But of course, Maze Escape. After about a day, the asymmetrical mode was all the match rotation would spit out, and oh dear, have you ever heard the phrase that monsters dominate? It originated here, and fun fact, it was actually true. People quickly realized how double monsters and even certain kits that complemented each other were recipes for disastrous games. Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat remembering that double lucky is legal. Despite the worrying implications about the game's future, the beta was deemed a success in many's eyes. 2v4 Maze Escape could be great, just needed some tweaking, which we saw not long after. Enter the servers update, which doubled as probably the heaviest balancing patch we've ever gotten. We got the good, the bad, and the Maze Escape. Ooh boy. The good. Heather, nerfed. CL of Metatron's defense was reduced from 80% to 50%. People were a bit mixed on this at first, but I think it was necessary and a lot of people quickly warmed up to it. Her plot armor was just too thick and it was time to step in. Fire damage, nerfed. Brute's Magma Charge as well as the boss Brute Fireballs had their damage decreased from 100 to 80, thank Christ. Speed Mortals, buffed. A 42 shard loss instead of 50. It's kinda arbitrary and Pen-Pens are still a little electric liabilities, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. Yet like I said, a bit of an arbitrary number. Agatha, nerfed. After a year of Hello Friend annoying literally everyone, we got a damage reduction. Only by 20 points, mind you, but this was still a notable deal. Agathas can no longer fully rely on their free kill button to rake in shards, at least not completely. 8-bit Ryan... nerfed? He no longer delivers the weakness status effect after barraging, but I mean, who cares? It was probably the least broken thing about his ultimate, but hey, I guess by definition it is a nerf. Didn't change a damn thing about how people played him or the meta though, I'll tell you that much. The bad. Nixon freaking dies. No, actually, Nixon must have totaled Vince's car or something because holy crap did he get hammered into the ground. Not only is there now a cap of 30 shards he could take per use, but they all must be within a 20-meter radius. And to top it off, his ult still takes longer than most other characters to charge up. 2 whole minutes. You could beat Garden of Banban faster than this. The Maze Escape. To support the new 2v4 format, every map was given an updated shard requirement to open the now 2 escape portals. People blame a certain individual for this change, but I like to think this is a more mature channel, and we're above throwing shade at others over here. Doesn't change how dumb 2 portals can be. I mean, look at this. A second monster guarding them is pointless. It's just a fact of life that mortals pretty much win at this point. Without voice chat or any form of messaging, it's just not plausible to coordinate anything with your monster teammate. Even if you had proper communication, and that's a pretty big if. Mortals can now no longer be seen through walls. Now, some people say this is dumb. Saying monsters dominate now is a one-way ticket to public ridicule. The mortal side just has too many advantages now. This compels monsters to immediately just go whatever's overpowered. And you know what else the player base felt compelled to do? W gaming. Coined by the veterans of the community, this strategy consists of a very complicated, over-convoluted method of play. Want to learn how? Alright, listen closely. You see your keyboard? Press this key. And hold it. And don't stop under any condition. Maybe use your mouse too. Okay, well that was obviously exaggerated, but point is, the worldplay population just found more success in simply not fighting. Fighting is a risk, and when the points to win are just scattered all over the field, why not just focus on that? It's a look down upon strategy, don't get me wrong, but it was and is still very common. This also bleeds over into Shard Mayhem, because of course it does. Shards per wave were also updated in that mode drastically, which is a good change on its own, but not in tandem with the community's now rampant agenda. And that's the balancing update. Let's correct that meta chart. Come on, really? That's it? Make no mistake, with Simon and servers, we got some great character changes. All of these, with the exception of Nixon, were warranted steps in the right direction. And the Maze Escape adjustments just ain't it, chief. Now, I unfortunately couldn't play the update on release day, so I couldn't be a part of this next thing, but day 1, the servers were bloated with more than 6 players, resulting in some especially hectic lobbies. This got corrected pretty soon, but I'm sure those who are part of this will never forget the magical experience. Now that's already a lot for one update that didn't even bring in a new map or character, but can you believe we have even more? Hidden away in the files were some sneak peeks at upcoming content. Now, leaks in the Dark Deception community have always had a shaky past, but generally those in the actual game files are more acceptable to share because, you know, the devs left them in there. It's their fault, obviously, so I feel no remorse, and it's been almost a year at this point, screw it. Mama Bear and Trigger Teddy ult icons, models, and even some animations were kicking around along with the level preview image for the soon-to-be-released Crazy Carnevil map. The model for the mallet trap was also discovered, and all of this was insane. Speaking of crazy Carnevil, back in the teaser department, we got word at the tail end of the month that it was coming, and Vince showed a sign of life. Hey everyone, this is future editing Ragai here to regretfully inform you that past Ragai has died due to his arachnophobia. Wait, how does this joke make any sense? December started with some minor patches. The friend play map order was changed to be this. I thought patches were meant to make games better. Yeah, I don't got an excuse for that oddity, but thankfully everything else was welcome. Not sure how, but it took up until now for Lucky's disregard for stuns to get fixed. Phantom Malik and Clown clones no longer targeted monster teammates in Maze Escape, some bugs with the item drop rates were corrected, and World Play's map selection was improved. I don't really remember this, but apparently it felt like there was a daily rotation where the game would only pick certain maps at certain times. Not sure, it's just apparently what I said in my notes. Yes, a game with only 7 maps stuck between selecting 2 to 3 for an afternoon, brilliant idea. And of course the game just loved choosing these 3 troublemakers. Regarding announcements, it was finally time to hype up another DLC. In the midst of the speculation, Vince claimed that no one had yet guessed it correctly, so naturally I stuck to my guns and said it was Bendy in the Ink Machine. Well, the following morning it was confirmed to be House of Ashes from the Dark Pictures anthology. I totally know what that is! Nah, sorry, what do you think I am, cultured? I literally just mentioned Bendy, that's how you kill all your credibility in one fell swoop. Trust me. I know. Similar case to a couple of the other DLCs, I just wasn't familiar enough with the source game. But that didn't mean I wasn't excited. Crossing over with House of Ashes was on the level of Silent Hill. The Dark Pictures anthology is a big deal. These games are super massive, developed by... Hey, what do you know? Really cool announcement I could get behind, just nothing I had much affinity for. But you want to get my attention, Glowstick? Oh my god, it's Huggy Wuggy from Poppy Playtime, take my money. Gonna be honest, the Monsters Immortal style suits him really well, and I dare say he looks better here than in Poppy Playtime. But hey, kids had their fun, now it's real men's turn. Crazy Carnevil. Alright, let's see what's up. Our first map's on Silent Hill, i.e. 9 months. Time to find out, did Glowstick forget how to make a good map? Their last map was Silent Sacrifice, what do you think? The obstacle course from Dark Deception had its layout simplified and compacted in its transition to M&M. We still got 2 floors, traversable via the green warp doors, but we could also drop down to the lower level from the upper half of the maze if so desired. Falling from the first floor will just kill you though. Huh, that's an odd design choice, is it not? Whatever, moving on. Traps! We got the mallets, which you can walk right through. And they only deal 80 damage instead of 100 like most traps. I see. We also got no Jack-in-the-Boxes, the superior trap in Crazy Carnevil. Well, that's a bummer. Bosses, I guess. Triggering boss time calls upon 3 clown spiders to crawl from deep below, and Jesus, Glowstick. I mean, just watch this. Oh, it's so cool. The idea, the animations, and the damn execution, all amazing. Seeing these spiders crawl over the map, climb up to the top floor, and even jump to clear distances, it's so good. Presentation-wise, this is easily the best boss in the game. Gameplay-wise, they're literally on a set path for the duration of boss time. They're an insta-kill, but play this map enough and they will not matter to you. Okay, to recap, we got a layout with a controversial gimmick, debatably the weakest trap in the game, and that's saying something, as well as a predictable and linear boss. You know what, it's fine, it's fine. At least Clown Gremlin finally has his home stage, and sick, it's just like Crazy Carnevil from the base game. Let me just pop my ult and send in the clone. Using Clown Gremlin's ultimate crashes the game. How? No, seriously, how? And this is global too, not just a bug with the new map. Strolling around the streets of Silent Hill and want to use Clown Patrol? If anything, this is actually better than playing the game, I'll give it that. Now, I'm one for playing Devil's Advocate in my spare time, but damn, you need to pay me a great deal to even try to defend this case. Anyway, let's just not pick him and hope other players do the same. I'm sure it'll catch on. We'll even play a different map just to return to the classic M&M we all know and love. The game was brighter. Like, significantly brighter. Colors didn't just pop no, they were saturated as all hell. This version of the game is just so broken. It feels like a faulty test build or something. Probably because that's exactly what it was. Huh. Shortly after release, the Crazy Carnevil update was rolled back. Glowstick had accidentally dropped a developer beta of the map, and yeah, that explains some things. Even the clown crash and brighter appearance were clarified. The team was updating the game's engine, and these were just unintended glitches created in the conversion. So, thankfully, 2 weeks later, we got the real Crazy Carnevil. Anything change? Yeah, quite a bit actually. You could no longer fall off the edges, which was probably a good idea. Fun concept, just we as a community were evidently not ready for such freedom. I still think it would be cool if you could at least drop down to the lower floor where there is ground, but this is fine, I'll take it. Trigger boss time, and the Goliath clowns are back! Probably the only time you'll ever actually see me cheer for these guys. Their inclusion is really cool. When the spiders are called up, so too do the floating killer clowns not from outer space appear. They make boss time way more lively and help balance out the simplicity of the spiders. Plus, they act just like the Jack-in-a-Box traps would've, so while not a perfect replacement, they kinda fill that void. Though on the other hand, speaking of traps, the mallets were not changed at all. Still have no collision and still only dealing 80 damage, and I just don't get it. Every other trap in the game deals 100 damage, except the air screamers, but I mean, do you want those things to dish out 100 damage per hit? They get a pass, the mallets don't. On top of the hill of inconsistency, Crazy Carnevil is also the only map where the bosses don't discriminate. Monsters in Maze Escape can still get damaged by them, and remember, Clown Spider is an insta-kill. Also, this map is just not built for fighting, it's too cramped and the doorways are just annoying to play with. This is only further made worse by how range-based abilities were gimped and don't bypass the now invisible walls. It was not a great day for Penny mains, to say the least. But alas, Glowstick ascended once again with a patch, and that issue was fixed. None of the other issues, mind you, and I don't even have a segue into this. But this update indirectly made Crazy Carnevil the most broken map in the entire game. Every time you die in M&M, you go into ghost mode, and you could spectate the rest of the match while waiting to respawn. However, in Crazy Carnevil, you could just walk off the edge and respawn early. Now, why does this happen? My best guess is to act as a safeguard in case some players found a way to just fall off the map, like encountering some faulty collision or something like that. I can justify that. What I can't justify, however, is that falling off the obstacle course is as easy as just walking off immediately after dying. I don't even know what Glowstick did here, but in permitting range-based abilities the right to go past invisible walls, ghosts were also giving this privilege. Now, astute M&M players will probably figure out, hey, Soul Collection doesn't even have ghost mode, let's just bite the bullet and do that. There are no issues with that, I said sarcastically. Soul Collection has its own problem. I can only assume they did some of the programming for this map before servers or something, because the match just ends early and only accounts for 4 players. This is how Soul Collection worked before we got 6 players per lobby, but the mode just refuses to recognize the additional mortals. Now, these are huge issues that pretty much ruin the map, and it's a shame. Disregarding these bugs, Crazy Carnevil is my favorite map by a long shot. Unique and pretty visuals, insane bosses, and my personal favorite M&M soundtrack, Itsy Bitsy Clown Spider. So, it was pretty awesome when Glowstick fixed these issues in a timely manner and resumed their continual output of M&M content. Man. If only that happened. In case you forgot, this was January 2022. Skipping forward even to the very end of year 2 on November 2nd, 2022, these problems are still lurking and just as problematic as they were at launch. And it's not because Crazy Carnevil was ignored, but the whole game. Now I'm putting quotations around that word because M&M obviously wasn't ignored. But spoiler alert, we're all done with new release content for the year. And we're only just 2 months in. As much as I hate to say it, the remaining 10 months of Monsters & Mortals' second year has no new playable characters, maps, modes, skins, anything playable. Hop on to M&M the final day of year 2, you're playing the same build that I just described, bugs and all. The showcase displayed so much, Vince hyped up what we'd be getting, teasers reminded everyone what was coming, but none of that came for year 2. Yandere Simulator, Poppy Playtime, Cory X Kenshin, House of Ashes, Evil Nun, we'll get back to this one, The Coma, Mama Bear, Trigger Teddy, Torment Therapy, Mascot Mayhem, Barely Buried, new game modes, and the epic build. If you don't know the rest of the story, or you just want to recap, strap in. We're not done yet. Want to throw a community up in arms and stir mass riots? Here's what you gotta do. Now, it's pretty simple. Listen up. Step 1. Entertain a Piggy crossover. And that's all the steps. During the Q&A prior, a fan brought up the idea which even caught wind of the Roblox Piggy devs. Glowstick responded and... Yeah, I'm sorry, but we can't talk about year 2 without at least summarizing the Piggy drama. Fans were quick to point out that M&M and Piggy had conflicting art styles, prompting some funny edits. Now, that right there had an obvious solution. Glowstick proved in the past that they aren't against redesigning characters from other franchises to better suit M&M's visuals. However, here's my concern with that. The cast from Roblox Piggy are iconic in how they look in their native game. Redesign them too much, sure they'll fit M&M, but would they even resemble the characters they're supposed to be? Take this fan interpretation for instance, incredible effort, no doubt. But do these look like the same characters? A key element of any character design, I'd argue, is the silhouette, which is something you can't just bend to your liking if what you're creating is indeed the same character. And this becomes a problem when you're working with Roblox models, which are more often than not far from polygonally complex. You see what I mean? I'm not saying this is an impossible task for Glowstick to overcome, but it's not going to be easy, and without the proper care and attention, the crossover will be objectively flawed. And yes, I'm legally obligated to bring up Tio. Sick as hell design that will probably not have this issue. Just saying, he better be the stage boss. Do not let this opportunity slide, Glowstick. This community's not entirely happy with the DLC. Throw them this bone. Please. Most if not everyone I've talked to agree he's a good fit. Please. But that circles us back to the core issue, the community's discontent with the crossover. In addition to the visual criticisms, M&M fans aren't jumping at the chance to play with the Roblox population. Now, I'm not typically one to overgeneralize, but I think it's safe to say that the main demographic of Roblox is of the younger variety. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, and if you're on the older side of Roblox's fanbase, more power to you. I'm just saying, most of the key players in the M&M scene are teens or older, and can you blame them for being a bit wary about collaborating with what's seen as a little kid's game? But hey, what about my stance on this? I'm honestly pretty neutral. We already discussed M&M's popularity earlier. The phrase any publicity is good publicity comes to mind, or in this case, any new players are welcome. Sure, the Lucky and W gaming population will more than definitely dwarf, but man, I'd rather have that than not even being able to find a game in the first place. Many don't agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. I understand this is more of a hot take of mine, but I do want to make this clear. Don't let yourself be silenced. Refrain from being a dick, of course, but voice your thoughts. Don't just succumb to what other people think. Form your own opinion and stick to your guns. If you know what I'm alluding to here, good on you, you get a cookie. If not, you might want to look a bit deeper into this controversy on your own time. Me though, I'm on the clock, and we spent a whole page of my script talking about just one thing in January. From here on out though, expect a more rapid-fire type of approach for the remaining information. I said earlier we were done with game content, so aside from Q&As, we won't be unpacking anything substantial. Should M&M be free to play? No. A quick peek at Corey's concept art, M&M on Steam Deck, and Kissy Missy becoming a playable monster for Poppy playtime. I find it interesting how her head design is actually more original than her official design from Mob Games. I kinda wish it was official, not gonna lie. And the month concluded with the Yandere Simulator store page going up. Nothing new except some concerns. Okay, Vince. February, Piggy got officially confirmed right off the bat with the promise of new models. Thankfully, unlike Poppy and House of Ashes, this Roblox crossover wasn't being prioritized. It was getting pushed to the back of the list, which I think helped make this news easier to accept. All three Yandere tracks were released to actually mixed reactions. Fans just didn't think they fit M&M, which I can actually kind of agree with. However, I was willing to hold out hope until we saw them in action before judging them fully. Except for the boss time theme, I mean, let me turn that up. Yeah. M&M got a permanent price cut at $4.99, which I think is way more fair. $10 was previously justified since so many free base game contents were promised, but it's harder to defend that with how long Glowstick takes. Steam achievements and trading cards were also on the way. Poppy's store page got set up, and understandably so, its place in the release order was changed to be right after Yandere, which makes a lot of sense. Best to get it out soon. Q&A time, baby. Surprisingly, we actually got a fair bit here. The aforementioned new game modes were given name drops, Shard Stash, and King of the Monsters, and it was even stated that one of these modes would have a siphon mechanic, i.e. health on kill. Apparently, lots was in store for March, and M&M fans were gonna get fed well. We just had to wait a bit longer. I wrote that part of the script before the year ended, hoping there'd be some sort of payoff, but nope, still nothing. I don't even have a joke here or anything, I'm just depressed. Police officers were confirmed as the Yandere traps, Kissy Missy was revealed to be a support monster, and only Corey would be coming with the now dubbed US Creator Pack. Now the more controversial stuff. The Believer spirits were crushing all of us as the possibility of a grab pack mortal was finally squashed. It really does suck. The grab pack is probably the most creative thing about Poppy, and to see it not getting represented in this DLC is gonna be a bummer. On top of that, Vince entertained the idea of an M&M 2, and that thought alone keeps me awake at night to this day. Look, I've never really been a fan of sequels to multiplayer games. The optimal idea is to just perpetually update them in my book. Making a sequel more often than not just leaves the first game in the dust, and man, that just doesn't feel like the right move here with M&M. Marching on over to the next month, we got 3 topics. The PP tracks dropped, which, to be honest, is probably my favorite set of DLC music so far. Just bangers all around. It's great to see that Dan hasn't lost his touch. Steam trading cards released, and aside from, actual content and the showcase, this was probably the most hyped time to be an Eminem fan of Year 2. Dear God, being in this community is really sad when you take a step back and evaluate it, isn't it? Interestingly, these cards gave us an early look at Dark Song's kit. Sure, it did seem like a reskin of Super Horror Bros ult, but I mean, if you're gonna copy an existing ability, his is far from the worst option. Looking at you, Ducky, got your ult copied 2 frickin' times. Also, shout out to David Barron for his massive collection of Vince NFTs. This is impressive. And to conclude March, the Silent Hill DLC was delisted. After 1 year on the market, it was time to say goodbye, or not. Yeah, I guess we'll never really leave this damn map behind, but hey, it would admittedly be sad in a twisted, sadistic way to see it go, so whatever. Time for April, another Q&A, another set of announcements. A barrage nerf was on Glowstick's agenda, thank God! Should not have taken it this long, but I could still cheer regardless. The DLCs in development were likely to release close together, meaning we'd be eating good when they finally, eventually, ultimately, certainly, definitely one day come out. Level cap would rise again at some point, and yeah, that's kind of pretty much it for the Q&A. There's more, but that's all the noteworthy stuff, and plus, I'm sure you don't want to hear all about how Lucky can fart. We got our first set of looks at the Yandere Simulator stage, and holy hell, it was good. Wait a sec, are those detailed hedges? Vince, you got no excuse now, bud. Senpai Animation, which is probably his ultimate, was also posted alongside a poster, which didn't take too long to get memed. Fiend's long-lost father, otherwise known as the boss of the House of Ashes DLC, was also teased. And it's time to touch base with Evil Nun. In April, after much speculation that this was the case, Glowstick announced that their involvement with the Broken Mask had concluded. The game was done. The game was almost done. The game was restarted without Glowstick. It wasn't that surprising. I mean, all we saw from this project was some motto reveals, music, and a gameplay sneak peek, and while there was definitely more done behind the scenes, it was obvious this project was just adding more to Glowstick's plate. I was fine with seeing it go. Besides Coma, it was one of the lesser crowd pleasers, and I think even Vince realized this to a degree. Both those games kept getting moved to the back of the line, and I get it. From the time this happened to when Year 2 ended, Keplerians was able to find another dev and actually get the game released on Halloween. It's definitely quality, but to my knowledge, none of the assets from Glowstick got used, which is a real shame. And it's not even all that likely that the Eminem DLC is continuing, since Vince himself is unsure if it'll still happen. And the thought of all that work going to waste is pretty sad, not gonna lie. May we talk about May. Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 came out, and immediately this affected hype for the Eminem DLC. Had Glowstick released their Chapter 1 based DLC before this, they'd be more easily forgiven. But now it'll just feel incomplete, as everyone is fully aware of what could have been. Despite this crossover shaping up to be one of the more popular ones, only having Chapter 1 content now is a major buzzkill. Yandere ult icons and the Fun Girl teaser were released. Listen, these are really cool and awesome to see. But I can't help but feel that this just weakens the hype of the eventual showcase. We saw nothing aside from characters for both Monstrum and Silent Hill before their showcases, but now we've seen the map, have a good idea of the ults, the boss in action, etc. But I mean, I can't really blame them. With how long it's taking, it's becoming more of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, you know? Most of the House of Ashes cast was shown with their model reveals, Eminem got some new killer official artwork, and we got our first look at some plushies. Vince also proposed the idea of blocking and parrying, and my thoughts are the same as they were back then. Neat idea, but it wouldn't suit the game too well at the moment. On June 7th, we got access to our 24th chapter coined Roots of Dread. This update featured the all-new Dredge Killer, the living embodiment of the Eminem community. Oh, wait, wrong script. June, Corrigan Idol animation. Salem's model was revealed, a new Eminem logo, and the announcement of mini devlogs that went nowhere, surprise surprise. And that was it. Don't worry, I'm not starving. July surprisingly had a bit more going on though. It started with a data leak where modders, more specifically Elizriel, dived deeper into the game's codebase. Remember when Mama Bear and Sugar Teddy assets were buried in the files back when servers dropped? Apparently that wasn't the end of it. Character data such as their classes and ultimates were revealed, and with additional tampering you could even play as the bears early. Granted, they're textureless and ultimateless, but at the time this was mind-blowing to see fans figure out. Shout out to SDB for the footage. Later that month we got another track for Poppy Playtime? This time being a cover of the Boxes on Boxes track. Yeah, this was a curveball. The widely accepted theory is that the stage will have 2 normal themes that will adapt based on where you are, like 2 zones, Vent Chase for vents and Box on Boxes for the actual toy factory. This was just guesswork based on Chapter 1 though, we still have no idea what the layout of the actual stage is. Oh man, here we go. We got the 20th episode of the Q&A live series, and it came with some news, to say the least. Apparently, multiple batches of content were done and ready to be released, but some behind-the-scenes issues were holding them back. Mainly the infamous Epic Games port. Now this page on my notes makes more sense. The script literally just says Epic Games in big bold letters. So what exactly was being held hostage? Yandere Simulator, Corey, Poppy Playtime, achievements? You've just made a very powerful foe, Epic. Look, I'm not gonna beat around the bush, this situation was pretty sucky here. However, before I lay into it more with my final thoughts at the end of the video, I just want to say that I honestly don't blame Vince too much. No joke, I imagined this was just a seemingly simple process that got more and more complex as it went along, and now it's just at the point of no return where too much work has been done to simply just revert. That was my initial stance, and while I still stand by it, this whole thing has definitely tested my patience, as you'll soon realize. And July done, but there goes my plans of playing the DLCs over the summer break. August, another month, another update. What? Yeah, you heard me right. Out of the blue, the update merging the Steam and Epic builds finally dropped. A great day immediately. This milestone alone paved the way for the M&M content we've all been waiting for, right? Right? Are you surprised? The update didn't work. The server system just gave out, and it was clear the game needed more time in the oven before crossplay would be compatible. We were so close, yet so far. Only other notable thing in August was the Eclipse music track for House of Ashes, but we still haven't heard the Trap and Boss theme because the video kinda underperformed. M&M fans were just getting sick of waiting with no reward in sight, so Vince decided to hold off on the rest of the DLC's music, and yeah, that's great. Nothing in September? Good god. What about October? Plushies? Yeah, I'm good. Well, it appears unlike year one, we aren't getting a happy ending. So you know the phrase, when Monsters and Mortals won't push out new content, frickin' make it yourself. Instead of moping around, let's bring up something actually worth talking about. Modding. This scene actually hit Monsters and Mortals before year one concluded, but it didn't take off until later on. With modding, fans were able to replace existing assets with some of their own music, sounds, UI, models, map visuals, you name it. Basically any alteration to the game's presentation without changing the core of M&M. In content droughts like almost the entirety of year 2, fan mods were practically the game's life support, and that's no exaggeration. I'm willing to bet that a good majority of M&M content posted in the last 6 months has at least one mod toggled behind the scenes. Might as well give some history. Modding was born with the overhauled mod back in August of 2021. A simple mod known best for its alternate skins and character icons, this set the foundations for what was to come. Tails 608 and the rest of the team essentially pioneered the modding scene. However, just a few months later, modding was dwarfed and already started reaching new heights. Heck, boot up GameJolt and you'll see plenty of quality M&M mods, all created by fans fueled with pure passion. If Overhauled created modding, what came next evolved it. Bonbon Fazbear, David Barron, Elizriel, Argo 4, TNE, Ketchup, JM Death Punch, and plenty more. I gotta call out the FNAF mod in particular though, this add-on is a beast. I can now W-game as Freddy Fazbear, life is pretty great. Also, this cinematic from David Barron is without a doubt my favorite piece of fan-made M&M content, just period. End of discussion, just watch it now. One of the best parts about modding here is that Glowstick is completely on board and has even endorsed it a few times now. When this game has things on the horizon just refusing to come out, modders take it upon themselves to bring us new content, and it's always nice to see. But we near the end of the video, and we need to talk about whatever the hell year 2 was. This is a multiplayer game by what is supposed to be one of the mascot horror juggernauts. Modding shouldn't be this crucial to the game's health this soon. No fault to modding, of course, but if you didn't notice, we had 0 content updates past January. I'm sorry, but that's just not okay. 10 months. Nothing new playable. Last year we had a drought, yeah, but the team had good reason with DD Enhanced and finishing up Chapter 4. Yet this time, not only was the drought longer, it was indefinite and we didn't even know why for most of it. Then when we finally did have the reason with the Epic Games port, being a fan was just frustrating knowing so much was ready to release, but couldn't. And I feel I have to reiterate, Glowstick's plate was overflowing with promises of what's to come. The fact we didn't get a single new character in year 2 is just depressing. I'm sorry, but it is. When you compare year 1 to 2, it's not even close. There was still stuff obviously, but most of it surrounded the game. Pitches to the community, DLC announcements, the occasional teaser, they can only get you so far. Reminder that this is a multiplayer game, and without an ironclad core, you need a continuous stream of content behind deadlines you could at least meet. This meta is flat out disgusting, and keeping it static for so long is not optimal for, again, a multiplayer game. Monsters and Mortals is hanging on by a thread, but it doesn't have to. I don't want this game to die, and I'm willing to bet that deep down a lot of the people hearing this don't wish for that either. We want this game to succeed and do better, the steps are in place. They just aren't being taken. Year 3 has the potential to be mind-blowing, I'm not even kidding. If everything currently promised can somehow release before the game's next anniversary, that would really be something to write home about. But as it stands, do you really see that happening? The epic build stuff, while frustrating as all hell, I can understand. But if it's not sorted ASAP, it won't happen right away. But Monsters and Mortals will die. Well, that was a depressing note to end on. On a more positive one, real quick, shout out to the M&M VC server. This place also contributed a great deal to the game's aforementioned life support. I've met some really awesome people here who love M&M to pieces, despite what they say. If you're interested in the game, give joining here a chance. I'm fairly active myself and I'd love to see the community grow. Hope to see you there.